initially it was hard. Initially I wanted that magic bullet. You know, I've learned in recent times the difference between a mentor and a coach. And for me, that mentor is someone who's done it before and shows you their way. And a coach is someone who asks great questions and helps you find the answers internally, because it is all available within us.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a great one. Our guest is from Australia and is the CEO and founder of The Business Oasis, and she's also a Pure Bookkeeping licensee. Kristy Fairbairn, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. It's very exciting to be here today.
It's great to have you, and I'm looking forward, just looking at some of the notes of your journey as a bookkeeper. I'm just excited to have you tell this story and lead this wherever we may go. So, Kristy, please tell us about your business journey leading up to this point.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. It was a bit of a different one, I guess. I have worked in and around accounting systems and businesses for a little while, and then I had a young family and took some time off work and needed something to return to that still gave me flexibility to be at home with my children. And I started working for a Pure Bookkeeping licensee, and I worked with her for a little over a year, and she decided she wanted to pursue other things, and I didn't want to work for anyone else. And I felt confident with the systems in place with Pure Bookkeeping that it would help me as I learnt how to run my own bookkeeping business to deliver that best practice service. So my husband and I talked, and we were in a position to buy the business from Joe, and that was a little over 4 years ago now. And so I went from being the only person in the business for a little while to growing it to now we're a team of 7. I have a team based in the Philippines and team based in Victoria and New South Wales here in Australia. So we're all remote and virtual. But so it's been a really exciting journey.
It's remarkable. I mean, I always love hearing the story of when a business owner takes risk. You know, you're working, you're doing your thing, and then you decide, wow, we're going to take on this risk. And some people start their business and they start it from scratch. And there's some pros and cons there. And then you actually bought an actual book of business and a business that was already established. You know, thinking about that for yourself, did you think that was better? Did you run into challenges with that? How was that experience?
I guess at the time of buying the business, we had a little over 20 clients that weren't consistent service, so that it was quite manageable. I was already doing all of the work for them, basically. There wasn't a client that I hadn't had contact with by the time Joe was ready to sell. So it was a really easy fit for me to just step across from being their bookkeeper to the business owner delivering bookkeeping services.
And obviously you were working in the business. So from that perspective, you knew what you were buying 100%.
Yeah, and I had some really great conversations with my accountant who, advised me on how to approach the purchase and also to have a look at my long-term vision. Was I wanting to buy a job? Did I want to earn just enough from bookkeeping services to have a job? Or did I want to grow a business that can support my family and I and expand? And it was definitely the latter. I'm very driven to create something bigger than myself.
So these were questions that your accountant posed to you?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously that's a very advisory type question. And it's like, okay, well, where do you want to go? And helping you understand and navigate, do you want to grow business? Do you want to just have a job? And then making sure that you're making the right choice.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's no wrong way forward. For some, they don't want to necessarily have the pressure of having a team in a larger business. It's just enough to have a job but not be working for someone else. And I think that that's the great flexibility that a bookkeeping business can provide us. We can choose how to control our future.
Now, Jo was the owner of the business prior. She was a pure bookkeeping licensee. And so you were working in a business that was using pure bookkeeping as its standard operating procedure. Tell us a little bit about that journey and what that was like, because by the sounds of it, Jo wasn't interested in growing a big business, but she did have you as a staff member. I'd love to hear a little bit of that story.
Yeah, Jo just wanted a business that delivered enough for her. And, I think it got to the point where she had a few more clients than she could handle herself, and she didn't like saying no. And, pure bookkeeping was a great fit for her because it gave her some structure around how to operate. And then for me, coming in as a very new employee and officially into a bookkeeping role and not just an accounts person within a business, it was just fabulous. It really mentored me through how to ensure that what I was doing was right, to get all those checks and balances each month, and to have a system to follow. And it's definitely my love language of having systems and processes. So it was a really great support for me as an employee initially to get the work done, and then as a business owner to have the confidence that I was still delivering the best work.
Beautiful. It's always great to hear, and I think it's a really interesting take and different perspectives that I haven't often heard of. I'm curious now, was there ever a point after you bought the business, did you ever go, oh my goodness, why did I do this?
No.
So it was full steam ahead, things were going, you had your vision, you wanted to build a business that was going to provide just more than enough.
Yeah.
And you were committed to that. Tell us a little bit about that mindset.
So, yeah, and it definitely is mindset related. I am very driven and very focused and motivated, and, I'm not a traditional business person in that my education stopped at the end of grade 10. I didn't pursue anything further until I needed to do my Certificate 4 in bookkeeping and accounting to become a BAS agent. So there wasn't a lot of education traditionally there, but I've learned a lot from life, and I am very focused and driven. And after the first probably 6 to 8 months of being in business, I, through pure bookkeeping, was exposed to some great mentors, and I started to work with a mentor for 12 months who really helped me gain clarity and focus on what I wanted for my future. So we worked on our 12-month goals and where I saw the business going. And then working with her really showed me the benefit of having someone in your corner. And, we talk about it takes a village to raise a family. It takes a village to raise a business. It can be very lonely as the only director of a business or the sole trader. So opening myself up to mentors and coaches has been fantastic to really help me have that CEO mindset as opposed to that technician mindset.
I have some exciting news for you. The Successful Bookkeeper podcast now has a free global virtual event called the Successful Bookkeeper Summit. That's right, it's a 2-day online conference featuring 20 incredible speakers from the bookkeeping, accounting, and business worlds, some of which include best-selling author of Profit First, Mike Michalowicz, and pricing expert Mark Wickersham, to name just a few. At the summit, you'll receive tips on how to price your bookkeeping services, market your business, hire great staff, and so much more. It all begins on December 2nd, 2021. To secure your free spot, visit thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/summit. Again, that's thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/summit. Don't miss this chance to rise up and change your bookkeeping business in 2022. Register today, and I'll see you at the summit. Now, let's get back to our interview. Really interesting. I'm curious, people in business, it sounds like you went quite quickly. Here you are, you're working for a company, you bought the business that had pure bookkeeping, you're implementing, and all of a sudden you're like, I want to get a mentor. What had you think that you would want to have a mentor to help you?
I think it was, again, that feeling, maybe it was that insecurity but self-awareness that I didn't know it all. And I knew that there were gaps in my mind and skill set to grow a business successfully. I had only ever worked in them. So I wanted to work with people who had grown their own businesses successfully and who could help me get some more framework and more structure beyond that, operating a bookkeeping service, how to actually grow out my business.
It's so interesting. And it's one of those pieces that as I mentioned, I love hearing, because in life, we go along and there's things that there's opportunities we can take, but there's always going to be risks that come with those opportunities. So I'm always curious what the thinking was at the time that, was it a difficult decision? Was it an easy decision? Because for our listeners listening, it can be very inspirational to know, like, yeah, this could be a challenge, and it might not work, right? It might not work. The mentor may not have helped you, but yet you seem to have the success because you brought your own mindset, and we know that when people are in a search mode, looking and committed to success, you find it. It's like you just continue to knock on the doors, you continue to open up new opportunities until you find that success, because you're committed. You were committed to the vision that you created when that accountant actually asked you, what do you actually want? You actually decided what you wanted, and you committed to having that be. And look at, here you are now today, living that vision.
Yeah, that's really true. And I think, from my first year in business, it was a small year. It was a little bit less than Joe and I had been making together. But in that time, in my 4 years, I've grown the business by a little over 440%. So it's been a lot of hard work and grafting to get here, but yeah, I'm really happy with what I've achieved so far. And, that next step for me is to work with some new mentors. I've had an amazing 15 months working with some business coaches who've really helped me work on my inner game, as we talk about with them, that, I've done a lot of self-discovery and self-awareness through there, and sort of done almost a bit of spiritual work to really clear out a lot of my stories of why I couldn't do and why I couldn't achieve more. And now I'm ready to work further in the development of my business and ensuring that its success is long beyond that very first idea that I had for it.
So interesting. I'm curious, through the coaching experience, what do you feel like, if you look at yourself when you first bought the business and you think about where you are today, if there was a list of things that, if you could go back and say, well, these are the things you're going to encounter and that you're going to have to actually go through in order to achieve your vision, what would be some of those things that you would have to go through and deal with?
Yeah, I think one of them definitely is learning that I am enough. Of really connecting to that and believing that me as myself is enough to deliver this. I don't need to prove myself to anyone. I don't need to take on anyone else's negativity. It's all about me driving it forward. And in being enough doesn't mean that I have to be perfect. I just have to be me. And, it's very easy to slip into the trap of being a perfectionist, particularly in, this sort of straight lines and everything adds up in the bookkeeping space. We can get a little bit detail oriented, and when things aren't perfect, we can feel less than. So, yeah, that's been a really big one for me. And also realising that I can dream big. And I remember speaking to a mentor a few years ago, Mel Power, and I told her my goals for my business. In 5 years, I wanted to earn $250,000. And she said to me, go bigger. You can do more than that. So we doubled it, and I'm on track at the end of next year, at the end of my 5th year, to reach that target.
Wow.
But I didn't think it was possible.
Amazing. Profound. I mean, just enough, just the realization of knowing that you're enough. I mean, that can take people a lifetime to get there. And it's interesting that you mentioned that. I was just literally listening to another speaker recently that was talking about an author that had written a book, and they were visiting a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And the one person asked this author, or mentioned to the author, it's like, this person in 1 minute makes more money than your book will in its lifetime of sales, and he goes, yeah, but there's one thing I have that the billionaire doesn't. I know what enough is.
Yeah.
And through that, it's happiness. And so this concept of it's not enough. It's not enough. I want more. I want more. Does that get happiness and satisfaction? Likely not. I mean, we hear about this all the time in today's world about personal development, the personal development world and mindset world is it's not always about more. It's just enough. So you've realized that for yourself, that you are enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I was talking to a business owner the other day who, times are difficult in these COVID and post-COVID and new COVID times. And he was talking about how, he might just have to settle in his current state of business because he is nervous about growing and things. And I said to him that, who says he has to grow? If his business is delivering enough for him right now, is that enough? What is this goal that he's trying to achieve? Is that for him or is that for someone else? So I think part of that work with coaches and mentors is getting that clarity around what it is we want from our businesses and knowing when we've got it. And, not forever chasing more because societally we think we should be earning this much or that much and we should have these things. It's about our own internal fulfillment and what is enough for us.
So true. So true. And I did want to mention as well, for you've achieved some great things, remarkable things for a bookkeeping business owner. Your results are absolutely remarkable. But you've invested
heavily
in your business. Tell us a little bit about the investments you've made and what those mean to you and what you would tell our listener about making investments in yourself and in your business.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing. I was fortunate enough that when I used to work in real estate years ago that our boss, our leader, invested in us and he showed us the way of working with mentors and leaders in our industry and beyond to get more. And, we used to have a book club of reading powerful books to inspire and motivate each other. So I certainly wasn't unfamiliar with the process, but it is difficult sometimes to invest. And, last year I invested in a $30,000 program for 12 months. And that was big. That made me hold my breath for a minute. But I knew that if I did the work, if I showed up, I would get the results. And within the first couple of months of that program, I signed up enough new clients to have paid for the program. So it wasn't difficult to have justified it then. And it wasn't a bookkeeping program. It was more just a program for business owners and entrepreneurs. So it really opened my mind up to various industries and ways of thinking and being. And it was really fabulous. And, the investments I made in myself last year increased my turnover by twice that amount that I've spent. And from what I've learned in the last year, I'm not in those programs now, but I'm continuing on with implementing those learnings. And, last year's theme for me was presence. I wanted to be present at as many things as I could, personally and professionally, really absorb these learnings that I had at my disposal. And this year is all about action and implementation and taking those things, those lessons, and putting them into my business. So, the return on investment is far greater than that initial investment in product or service.
It's remarkable, and it's a great lesson in learning for every listener listening, in that we all invest. We invest in different things. Sometimes those are good investments. Sometimes they're not investments. I mean, if we watch TV, we're investing in our entertainment with our time. We're investing our time. And you're going to you get some return of investment from that. When we invest in our business, Warren Buffett, great investor, remarkable investor, talks about definitely investing in your business is one of the few investments you'll make that are inflation proof, because as your business, you've invested in your business, so you spent that money, now your business has grown, but that business will continue to grow with inflation. If prices go up, your revenues go up, because, unless you say, I'm going to charge less every year, which wouldn't be a good choice. But you add new customers, but you also increase prices. It's inflation proof. So you've made some dramatic investments, but you've proven that those investments were worth it by tracking and measuring the return on investment, which is remarkable.
Yeah, thank you. And, it's one of those things that I really, I love the variety. And I think that, we have people in our lives for a season, and that's okay. It's sort of, to be in a successful program, you want to graduate it. You don't want to, it's not like a therapist, I think sometimes our therapists are our lifelong people, but our coaches and mentors, you want to work with different people at different times to get what you need from them. And, that's been really great too, that I've not felt guilty if I was ready for something else, or I've not felt beholden. I've known that I've gained what I needed to for where I'm at now, and I look forward to the next thing. But it is all about showing up and doing the work. It's not a magic bullet. It's not a done-for-you service. You have to show up.
That's absolutely right. That comes up a lot. I know in just clients that I've worked with, other business owner, people that have gotten into business. I mean, you can't expect. What was the analogy I used just this morning? Was, hey, can we talk more about the marathon? No, we got to run the marathon, right? We don't get better at running the marathon unless we're running towards the marathon, or running, period, right? So you've got to do the work, and it's not going to be easy. But I can tell just from talking to you, and I'm sure our listener right now is listening as well, it's like there's a sense of ease around the work that you had to do, the risk that you had to take, the investments that you had to make. There's a sense of ease around it. Has that always been that way, or is this part of the mindset development through business?
It's definitely been a progression over time, particularly with mindset and growth, that initially it was hard. Initially I wanted that magic bullet. I really, I've learned in recent times the difference between a mentor and a coach. And for me, that mentor is someone who's done it before and shows you their way. And a coach is someone who asks great questions and helps you find the answers internally, because it is all available within us. And, those early stages of working with mentors, that's exactly what I needed, because I needed someone who could show me because they had done it. And it's kind of that validation that you need, that it does work, because it helps you through those hard days of, I don't want to do it. And I still to this day find myself ostriching sometimes. I will bury my head in the sand if I don't like it. And it's having the right people around you who call you on it and say, what is it about this that you don't want to do? Because obviously something's stopping you. So, you've got to have a bit of a thick skin too, that you have people around you who can call you on your stuff. But it's just knowing that there's no mistakes. It's all lessons, and everything has an opportunity, and just allowing yourself to be open to that. Last year I had my first weekend away without my family. It was just me. I took myself to a beautiful beachside retreat, and on the drive there, my new full-time employee resigned. Now, the old me would have turned around and gone home and just worked all weekend to catch up and been the victim of that process. But instead, it just was what it was. And I had my weekend away and I faced it on Monday and I problem solved it through. And that afternoon I had her re-engaged through working through some different issues. So, it just stops that initial confrontation of things that go wrong, of just looking for opportunities in every situation, as opposed to that victim mentality of, I may as well just do everything myself, because you can't rely on people.
So true and remarkable. So congratulations on that. Now you, if I'm correct, live in Tasmania.
I do.
And that's
Very
where
lucky.
your business, is that where all your business is generated, in Tasmania?
No. So we actually work with clients all around Australia, primarily in Tasmania, because that's where the business started with Joe. But we don't do any in-person work unless, they're local, and it just sort of flows that way. But generally, all of our work is delivered remotely. As I mentioned before, I have team members based in the Philippines. They are my production team. They are doing the work, and then I'm overseeing it. And one of the benefits and opportunities that came out of COVID last year was business owners had to realise how to work virtually required that remote access to people and being on Zoom. So that allowed me to expand my business and work with people in Western Australia, New South Wales, Victoria. I've talked to clients in Queensland. So yeah, it's really allowed me to go national.
So brilliant. And Tasmania is a smaller part of Australia.
It's small.
Island.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's small.
Yeah.
I've been there. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. But when I was there, it's like a very local, small business type economy. And I often hear of the challenge, like people will say, well, I live in an area that has not that, it's not like they're living in the middle of a metropolis and there's lots of businesses all over the place. But I always love hearing the stories of where it's like, well, yeah, I live in a small economy, local economy, and yet I'm able to build a remarkable, high revenue business because you find a way. It's not about waiting for it to just happen. You find a way. Well, we have business in Tasmania, but you've gone and you've figured out how to get business in other parts of the world, which again, not everybody thinks that way or has figured that out.
Yeah. It's all about those self-limiting beliefs, isn't it? Nobody's told me that I could only work with people in Tasmania or even within the north of Tasmania where I live. I don't have any clients in Hobart, in the other end of the state. But, I have been able to meet with clients in other parts of Australia because, I'm not telling myself no. I'm not telling myself small. And there are also, I know that there are certainly plenty of business owners and bookkeepers who are able to be very successful in a very small area, and some people love that. So it's great. But, it doesn't have to be a roadblock for you to grow because there aren't enough businesses in your area or the market is saturated with others delivering the same service. So you have to fight for more business. It's just allow yourself to think bigger.
So true. So true. Big conversation around mindset today. Now, if I'm understanding it correct, you've also started to become a coach yourself, or are a coach yourself. Is that correct?
It is, yes. Yeah.
Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, through all of the the relationships I've developed over the last 15 months with some amazing coaches and coaching practices, I was inspired to become a coach. And I worked with another bookkeeping coach and mentor last year, delivering to her clients for a little while. And that really ignited a passion in me to work with other business owners. And so now I'm building out a business as a business and mindset coach to help other fellow entrepreneurs succeed and get the freedom from their businesses. So it's a really exciting step to be taking, and knowing that, you know, there's a lot of synchronicity with bookkeeping, that, you know, we're looking at the health of the financials, but now to help look at the mindset health of business owners. And yeah, I'm really excited to dig into that more.
I love it. Well, I've always thought it's such a powerful position that a bookkeeper has with a business, because you have direct connection with the business owner, and, you know, you're often working on things that a coach would work on with a business owner, and you're right there at the heart of the situation. So it makes sense to me, and it's an interesting pivot in addition to your bookkeeping business.
Yeah, thank you. And it's, you know, it's just a really exciting thing. I'm very passionate about the success of small businesses. It's hard owning a business, and, you know, as I said before too, that it can be lonely. So we have to add to our village, and being able to deliver beyond bookkeeping services and really help and be more impactful across multiple businesses is a really exciting step for me.
So true. So true. So you've been blessed with so many great opportunities to work with so many great people. You took those initiatives, but you also have the blessing of finding a passion in your life.
Absolutely.
Which is remarkable. Now, you've mentioned many mentors. You mentioned pure bookkeeping being a critical piece in your business journey, but you also mentioned a lot of mentors. I would love, if you're okay with that, share, like, who were those people? What are their names? Are they still in business? Can other people work with them?
Yeah, fabulous. So I've worked with Katrina Arsman in her Bookkeepers HQ alongside Pure Bookkeeping, and my initial mentor was Amy Hook, who has The Savvy Bookkeeper. She's just fabulous. And then recently I've been working with the Game Changers and their group of coaches in there, and that's really where I've had that coaching exposure. And last year, at the beginning of last year, I was part of Mel Power's training program as a student. And after a few months in that, she asked me to be a coach for her and a mentor. So I worked with her and her team of coaches for a little while. And and I'm just about to start with the WISE mentoring team. So some big hitters here in the industry in Australia. So it's really exciting.
Wow. Absolutely remarkable, your journey. And Kristy, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey with all of us. And if people wanted to learn more about you and connect with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, thank you. I've been a keen listener of this program for years, so it's a really exciting thing to be here. And yeah, I've got I have my website, which is businessoasis.com.au, or you can find me on Facebook and Instagram under the Business Oasis. And we'll be feeding through a bit about my coaching into those spaces soon. I'm launching a coaching program in October. So yeah, I'd love some engagement on those pages to keep up to date with where I'm taking things.
Beautiful. Well, that's very exciting. And I know our listener is probably interested in learning more about you and the programs that you bring out. So such a remarkable opportunity to have you. And so on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for your generosity today.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael. It's a privilege to be here.
Oh, thank you. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.